You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Hi everyone, welcome to Potluck Food Talks. My name is MC Foie Gras. We're recording live from Managua, and I'm here with my man, Lil Daikon, the wasabi wabi sabi of the radishy lyrics. How are you doing?
God damn, that was really good. I love that.
By the way, Michelin just last week quietly started to back off with their Clovers and their green stars. Suddenly, they're not in their web pages anymore, but there is also not an announcement about it. It's like
no big announcement.
Sneakily disappear. It's just a trend change. Greenwashing is not the trend anymore. Bombing Gaza is the trend now, so let's go there. I don't know, like...
Yeah, and it's like, I think that the way that they're removing it is so on par with how they were kind of like doing it. This is the thing with Michelin, right? I want to make a statement, right? I have very mixed feelings about Michelin.
You have a Michelin puppet right next to you.
I light a little bit of incense in the morning before it. I have a little altar, and I sit in front of it and I stare at it. I whip myself. So, please.
That's actually a nice analogy. That's actually
okay. So I want to share with you a little bit my feelings about Michelin. They're very personal to me, right? So Michelin, on one hand, I disagree with almost everything that they do at the moment. They don't really know. They don't have a certain direction anymore. They hand out stars left and right, and they take them away left and right, and you don't really know why. There's no real reason for it, They hand out a star, they take it away the next year, and people are sort of like people that go to the restaurant, they're sort of like, the food, if anything, if it's not gotten better, which we think it has, it stayed the same. So why are you taking the star away? It's a sort of sensationalism. It's very cheap. Like with this whole green star thing, it's so sporadic. It's like, hey, we make it a big deal. Here's your green star. Amazing, right? It fits into our narrative at the moment. People like green stuff, right? Yeah, nice. Like McDonald's with the green fucking M. Basically the same thing. Pathetic, right? And then the sort of like trend dies down and they're like, whoop, no, you lost it. Sorry. Oh, you're doing everything the same that you did before? Maybe even better? Doesn't matter. We take it away from you. And it's like, no. But Michelin, there is an idea behind it of what it maybe used to be, maybe not, maybe it's just my own romantic perception, but of real intention in the pursuit of excellence. And that is why when I think of Michelin, I still have a sort of nostalgic feeling to it, because Michelin for me, as I perceived it also as a young cook, was sort of like, doesn't matter if you do little gel cubes, doesn't matter if you do little agar dots somewhere, or whether you're just cooking really like rustic, but like elevated, elegant food. It's if you're pursuing excellence, that is what they're all about. The thing, that is why that's why I like looking at this little Michelin man, because that's what I think of when I look at it. I'm like, the pursuit of excellence. At the same time, I completely disagree with this compendium of, mostly old white men in France and the UK who just are on a power trip and it's just like, you get a star and you get a star and you didn't come to my fucking supper club last weekend, so I'll take a star away from you. Like, it's bullshit. It's a big circle jerk. It's a big fucking, boys club circle jerk.
Where should I start? What you just said, to me, it proves one thing that I once, when I studied design, they explained us that the greatest brand ever built was Christianism. And they actually set the foundations of what later brands would become. Also because they created a logo, which is just a symbol of just two lines, which is a cross. And it's something that represents an idea larger than just like a little sign. It's an idea people embrace, and there is a lot behind it, right? Like, I think Michelin achieved exactly the same, because like many careers, and I think both of ours included, like when we began, at least our ambitions was to know this, start chefs going there. And this is a 1-star, a 2-star, a 3-star, and knowing the differences and also dreaming about getting stars ourselves, and understanding what are the steps to get there. And this is the whole idea of Michelin, which ironically is a tire company. And ironically, that puppet you have there is a tire monster, to sell tires. If you go back, if you decode the marketing strategy, which started 100 years ago, this was basically a highway guide to drive more so you can sell more tires. That's the strategy, right? 1 second, let me go to Instagram. I wanted to react to that Puglisi reel.
And then you call them up and you say, oh, are you guys sustainable? Yeah, we are. Oh, here, let me give you a Clover. What the fuck is that? Michelin guy that has spent the last, 6 decades in pushing gastronomy towards square, cutting things in a certain way. Now it seems like it's punching out shit that makes you go somewhere. The core of the way that the Michelin guy wants people to cook is wasteful. It's about being all perfect and nitty-gritty and putting stuff balancing on other stuff that's supposed to look pretty. Every type of leaf that does not look like this, or cut out every piece of fish that is not perfectly square. When has a fish ever been square? Fish is not supposed to be square. Square doesn't swim. It pisses me off. Who has been defining gastronomy for so many decades now wants to talk about sustainability, but does not do it in a sensible way. Sustainability is asking questions, asking critical questions, and asking how can we do better? Because that's what we try to do, and I know that a lot of our colleagues are trying to do. But that's not what the Michelin Guide is asking for. This is called greenwashing. This is just putting something on top that makes it look greener, and that's not good enough. So I'm kind of pissed. I was back home Monday, and TV was getting in contact with me to talk about the Michelin Guide coming out, because I was probably the only one left in the city. And I was really surprised because they started to talk about this Clover. You're going to get the Clover. Are you excited about getting the Clover? What will it mean for you if you get the Clover? What the fuck is the Clover? So this is this new sustainable certification. I look up on the homepage and I find relay amongst the Clovers. And I was like, wow, okay, there's a little quote about farm to table, shit like this. It's what we do. And yeah, okay, that's good. I'm kind of happy about it. I tried to get in touch with John Tam and ask him, what did we do? Like fill out something I don't know about, or what happened? Oh, no. It was just a phone call. What do you mean? It was just a phone call. They called up the restaurant and asked for John Tam, the head chef. John Tam picks up the phone and they say, so you guys are sustainable? Yeah, kind of. We do our best. We do this and this. Oh yeah, good, cool. Thank you very much. That was it. This industry is difficult. I think it's really difficult to get through all the storytelling and all the bullshit that's going on. But I just know for a fact that the produce that we put on the plate is the one major consideration you need to have when you talk about sustainability. I know about solar panels and all that, but that's easy. The produce that you choose to put on the plate is what makes the difference, because you need to make an effort to do that. You need to choose something that probably costs you more, and therefore you need to support some local people doing some local good stuff. You need to support people that want to make a change and actually sacrifice to make a change. Organic is the least you can do. Now, we're a few on that list that is certified organic, but a lot are not. And I think that that's fine. But then what is it? Like, does this organic certification even account for anything in this thing? Or is it just, does not matter at all? A phone conversation, that is just bullshit. You call up a restaurant and ask what do they do, because I guess based on some quotes on their homepage or some shit that you heard around town, and then you call them up and you say, oh, are you guys sustainable? Yeah, we are. Oh, here, let me give you a Clover. What the fuck is that?
So that was it.
Yeah. I've seen that reel when it came out originally, which is quite a while ago. It's quite a few years ago.
Yeah, you already mentioned it in the podcast like many episodes ago, like at least 100 episodes ago.
Because it's so on point, honestly. You know, it is so spot on. It's the phoniness, it's the fakeness, it's the sensational, like chasing, news, but it's the lack of substance. I've talked about that a lot. You know, this whole sort of like everything's on the surface, but nothing actually supports it. And it's exactly that. It's sort of like, oh yeah, I can model a whole restaurant so easily after this idea, this trend, because we're talking about a trend in a certain way, this greenwashing, farm to table, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. No, that, like, I would say the trend is greenwashing, not sustainability. It's pretending to be sustainable. That's the trend.
100%. Because that's way easier. It's so easy, right? So you make it a little bit this and that and blah, you know, you go a little bit Noma, you make a little bit of wood, a little bit of plants. You post on Instagram, you know, pictures of farmers, whatever. You get some land somewhere outside. You start growing vegetables. You get a little piece of land, or you get some like fucking buckets. You make a rooftop garden. Good. Great on you. That's great. Honestly. It by no means makes you sustainable. Not even a little bit. This is the thing that also pisses me off as somebody who has been very passionate about sustainable cooking and plant-orientated cooking. I mean, as you know, like I used to run this entire fucking pop-up around that idea. And I actually did a horticulture certification at one point because I was so intrigued by the connection of growing produce and the quality that then reflects in the restaurant. There's so much that goes into it. And this half-heartedness of sort of like, oh yeah, our menu is 80% vegetable focus. Does that make you like sustainable? Not at all. Like not even a fucking little bit. Sustainability is so much. And the fact that a big entity like Michelin, who's one of the most powerful entities in culinary world, is actively engaging in this greenwashing is really damaging for people who are trying to make an actual difference.
No, just to also add to that idea, what does a tire company to talk about promoting sustainability? You know, like you basically work on cars, you know? Also, like I was,
start.
You know, like I once did a research on calculating CO2 emissions in a restaurant. And that, like the operation of doing that mathematically is astronomical, of calculating how much emissions. Imagine every supplier on the chain from the producer to the salad, where you have like 12 different ingredients that come from 12 different locations and they were transported in 12 different ways. So imagine if you put all that together plus workers and even clients and that whole ecosystem of activity. If you calculate that, you know, like, as you say, there's no sustainability at all. I've heard even of restaurants that are very on top of sustainability, that do things like they will grind bottles to do plates with that. I think Silo does that. As far as I understand, that's also not necessarily sustainable. You know, like so by fortune or disgrace, there is something that is inherently attached to the gastronomical experience, which is storytelling. And any good restaurateur knows this. And for that reason, you will see places like, I don't know, like Azurmendi, where you walk in and they will tell you, oh, and this is our garden, and here are our tomatoes, but they're not ready because they're not in season right now. And you sit down, first course, tomatoes. And it's like, but you just told me there were no tomatoes, you know, and now you're giving them to me. You see, I think that the main thing here is generating a narrative that attracts an audience. And that's the whole thing, you know, like that's what's going on here, not something else, you know, like they don't give a shit about saving the planet.
Absolutely. And I think there's the storytelling point that you just mentioned is a really, really good aspect to look at it, because there's two ways that you can go about it. There are a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. If you come to a restaurant, you have a very narrow window that you see. Nowadays, we have social media, and that's a huge added sort of image that you perceive. But normally, you walk into a restaurant, and you have the dining room, you have the service, and then you have the food that comes out. And that is the image that you experience. Nowadays, social media is a big, big part of it, one of the biggest parts of it, no? Because you like look at the image of the restaurant before, and you get a certain idea, you get a certain feeling, and then you go there with a certain already like idea in mind. If you think about it, you go to a restaurant and the storytelling thing is, you know, somebody's like, they have a farm, they do this, they do that. The storytelling comes in as they tell you, and it enriches your experience. It is a way to like communicate all the effort that is put in behind the scenes. That can be good, that can be a little bit tedious. It depends how it's done, but it can be very good. The other aspect, which is happening a lot more these days, I think, is the bullshit storytelling. Let me tell you, blah, 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 blah. And the storytelling is like its own thing. It's not actually like, hey, let me communicate to you the things that we don't see. It's like, hey, let me paint a picture in your mind. Whether that picture is actually happening doesn't matter. Let me conjure up images of radishes being pulled from the ground by our head chef in the morning. Let me paint you a picture of how our stagiaires happily walk into the morning mist to pull a pumpkin from the field, you know? And you're like, oh, wow, yeah, nice, very romantic. But it's like, unfortunately, more times than not, these days, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And that's like, that is the thing that a lot of these like very high end, I would almost say almost all of them, they live off that. You know,
yeah,
like,
it's an important part. That's why I say, and every restaurateur knows this. Starting on a specific level, you can't put a dish and just say, just explain the technicalities. You know, like well, you could, you know, like, but you have to do at least that. At least explaining some technicalities like, well, the beetroots were used and then mixed with butter and blah blah blah. You know, like at least that, or you can use it, for example, like when we were in Noma, they told us they wouldn't go into the technicalities because they would just say like, you know, fermented whey condiment. That's it. You know, like there was probably a lot behind that was just too complex to explain, you know, but that works. You need at least that. And if you know how to play with that, there's people that, build these fictions around food just to enhance the experience. And it does because people believe it. Even if it's a lie, it doesn't matter. You know, you were mind blown by this story someone told you, you know, and that's the way it works, unfortunately.
I mean, that is what Mugaritz lives off. It has always lived off, you know, I mean, for over a decade at least. You know, I mean, when I came to Mugaritz, you know, and you were amazed by these images of people in the garden, like harvesting flowers with a tweezer and a little scissor and blah, you know, and you have all these, like, I mean, they're very, very good at image building and at storytelling, very good. If you cut all the bullshit at the end of the day and you ignore all of that, the location, the story behind it, etc., and you just have the plate of food, what is there to say, you know?
I think, well, but like I said, at the end of the day, a gastronomic experience, there are many forces in play, and the location is one of them. The stories is one of them. Actually, their last book or one of their books is the flavor of stories. You know, the things they're actually not bullshit. You know, like a story can change the flavor you experience of a dish. Like your brain process it differently once you have like a story or an environment or a setting or a dishware or whatever, you know, like all these things enhance the experience. And like I said, like any people in the industry, like any proper professional knows this very well and know how to master this and setting the right setting to do it, you know. I really like what Christian Puglisi said on that video we just watched, where he said that Michelin cut things square and that they wanted to fit just in a certain way. Because really, if you think about the expectations, where the point where they're aligned, not only for the guests, but also for the workers, they're aligned on a place that for me, it's toxic. And that's where chefs go crazy, where they burn out, where they humiliate their workers and suppliers in order to get the right to place a logo at the entrance of the restaurant, which is for me crazy. Like you do all this crazy thing. I was thinking about this. It's so tasteless to put the logo of a tire company in the front of your restaurant, but at the same time, it's perceived as classy and luxurious. And for me, like we've been brainwashed into this marketing strategy so successfully that's the point where we are right now. And I think it's crazy.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about, like, there was no logo of Michelin and Noma. You usually see it when you walk in, they don't have it. And I know they're very jealous on their branding and collaborations, you know, like I know whenever they wanted to collaborate with a brand, even the greatest brands you can imagine, they were like, we can only use the Noma logo. There won't be any other logo. And I think, well, at the same time, they don't have to show off anything.
I mean, but they've also like had a very long like trajectory, you know. I think I remember like an interview with René Redzepi many years ago in the original Noma space, where it was like this whole thing about them not getting a 3rd star when they were like the best restaurant in the world for like a really long time, right? And he was like, would I like to get a 3rd star? Yeah, absolutely, you know. And I think
I remember
they're way past that, right?
Yeah, like what was the name of the documentary? Chef and Their Stars, a German documentary is where he said that. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. You just said something that like reminded me of a point that always comes up for me when people talk about sustainability in a restaurant, you know? I feel like with this like trying to fit into a square mold, it's very fitting to Michelin. They can't really do that now anymore because like too many people have broken out of this mold. Like El Bulli broke out of it, and you know Noma broke out of it, and many other places that followed, right? Because it used to be like you have to be like this for us to give you our award, right?
They say like it's just about the food and they embrace creativity and this or that. But just recently I heard a story like from a very reliable source. There's this city where there's this 2-star restaurant, and they had a brother restaurant that wanted to gain like also their star. Also, you know, when you don't, the inspectors are undercover, but there are some hints that, like, you know, like they're usually on their own. Not always, but they're usually on their own. They always will have like the whole menu and coffee afterwards. And then after 2 or 3 inspectors visited you, usually there's a booking from a visible face of the guide, with like whatever, the director of Spain or of New York or Mexico or whatever. And you know the name, and so you see the booking and you know this person is coming. So you're warned that they're coming. So, and this gives you the opportunity to do whatever you want. So I heard a story of someone who, you know, canceled all the reservations and invited all the suppliers. So he made like a fake setting of super happy people going crazy all over the dishes and everything, and nobody complaining and everything, and nobody giving a problem or anything, and be like, oh wow, this place is amazing, going to the to the guy and saying like that. Again, you know, like the whole setting and environment and storytelling around a thing is what makes something magical, right? And the other one that I heard, they wanted to fit into this mold where I think it's the one you were suggesting, where you need to have amuse bouche and you need to have petit fours and you need to have like a specific. And if you don't have a bread basket, bread should have an important place in the menu. At least if you're doing a Western proposal, right? Like a Western classic academically kind of cooking. So what they did is basically they did all the prep in the 2-star restaurant, like the petit fours and the amuse bouche and all those things, and they with an infrastructure of 40 chefs, they sent all the prep to the little restaurant, and they got a 1st star right away. You know, like, and that's how they did it. There's also that, you know,
and that's so ridiculous, you know, and that like brings me back to the whole like the point that I wanted to make with the whole like sustainability attached to Michelin. It's so extremely unsustainable, and not just in a way of like the food.
The people.
Yeah, when I was studying horticulture, I was reading a lot about permaculture. One of the biggest concepts of permaculture that stayed with me, because this is about like landscaping and stuff like that, you know, and agriculture. But for me, I really made a connection with kitchens and workplace also, is the human interference needed. So there's this big Bible, sort of like the Earth Care Manual, I think it's called. And it was showing you like this little diagram of like what a permacultural and sustainable plot of land could look like. And it was talking about the least human interference that you need is the best, right? Because that is the most sustainable. And what we're doing, what the trend was in Michelin star kitchens is the complete opposite. More and more and more and more and more people and more hours and more this and more that and more. And it's like, man, it's like trying to solve a situation by getting angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier. That's exactly what was happening in kitchens also, right? And like, so these days also when I hear people kind of talking about sort of like, oh yeah, we have so many chefs, like we work so many hours. I mean, how many fucking times have we like had conversations like that with people from the industry? And I'm kind of like, you cannot talk about being sustainable in any fucking way. I don't give a shit. Like, you know, like, how many farmers you have and like how much land you have and this and that and blah. If you have this and this many chefs and all of these chefs, they work, I mean, come on. over what, like 10 hours? 10 hours for normal people is still a lot. That's more than a work day, right? For me, that's a half day if I work.
One thing is if you do 10 hours and you achieved many things. The other thing is if you work 10 hours and you were trimming leaves to make them square.
Picking
to make,
yeah.
Yeah, and cutting them in a cookie mold, making round herbs and throwing the frames away. There's also this concept of the curse of the Michelin. Very early, Alain Sanderans, I think he was one of the very first one to give up his star and saying, I don't want this shit. I don't want this curse. Is that like a gift, a poisoned gift? Also, Marco Pierre White, he also gave away his stars. Well, there is this saying that theoretically, if you have 1 star, you will sell 30% more. 2 stars 60 and 3 stars 100% more sales, which I think it's believable. I think that's the whole thing around this, because there is an intermediary needed between the consumer and the supplier, in this case the restaurant, and the producer, right? Like restaurants produce gastronomic experiences, but
I don't think it's true anymore, though.
No. I think this will be true always. Like, and also in any industry, like in order for a dentist to get clients, he needs to be on the internet, for example. He needs a website.
For sure, but that Michelin is directly connected to that. I don't think that.
No. I think I lost my point. Sorry. What I wanted to say, I think Michelin is directly connected to bad environments and kitchens.
Interesting. Yeah.
You won't see people going overly crazy if they're not ambitioning for a star or trying to preserve a star, or making extra hours. It's like, we're doing this for this. Like the ambition is not, let's make this and this profits at the end of the year. Let's everybody become rich, or let's everybody change history by creating this new technique no one has ever done before, which is something I would say El Bulli had that ambition, for example, and other restaurants as well, of course. But you could in El Bulli clearly see an ambition that they wanted to explore unexplored ground in the culinary world, and that was their thing. But in many, many, many cases, and in the restaurants we're talking about here, are the restaurants that said, no, we're not doing this because we have a star and we want a second, and we have a second and we want a third, or we don't have a star but we want a star. For that reason, we're going to change the menu and do this and become better. I don't know. I think there is a correlation, and also not necessarily more sales, because there's a specific market for that, and this doesn't work in every city or every client group. Okay, like.
I totally get your point.
The other point I was saying is that Michelin, in any guide, responds to a need, and that's a need in the market. Like, people need. About restaurants, and I know about restaurants, but Mr. Smith, who has an idea and he goes to a specific city, he will go to Michelin or TripAdvisor or Google Business or the list of some influencer or some book, or he will ask friends, or he would go into whatever, but there is a need to build that bridge. Okay, and what Michelin has done is that the European standard, because that's also another thing, it's an Eurocentric company that whatever you see outside, it's still Eurocentric. It's, let's give this Michelin star to this exotic taco place because it's ethnic, or to this hawker place in Singapore because it's so, wow, it's so exotic that we can have an experience here. And I'm like, that's not a star standard, like once you're in the business and these things, what's a star and a 2-star and a 3-star, and you can tell.
It's phony. Yeah. It's like, oh, look at us,
We're so inclusive. We're so sustainable.
Yeah, I definitely see your point. I think what you're saying is I would agree with it for a big percentage of things. I think it's definitely possible to have a Michelin star restaurant and it not be toxic. And I know of restaurants that don't care and don't, especially here in Dubai, for example, Michelin is very new here. And before that, there were lots of restaurants that were pushing a lot. Also in not the most healthy way, without ever getting a star,
I agree. I don't say it's all the cases, but I say there's a visible pattern of that. that it's easy to spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like the thing is like also with giving the stars away, and like I think the important part is how free you are as a creative, as somebody who makes something, right? Are you going to enslave yourself to the idea of getting a star and being dependent on somebody giving you this out of the grace of their, you know, whatever? Is that going to change what you do? It's also the curse of social media, right? It's like, well, on one side, I get all this information and it's great. I get a lot of inspiration, but at the same time, how much of like an authentic me am I bringing into the things that I'm creating and developing? So if I'm chasing a Michelin star, like, if I didn't have that, if I didn't have the social media, if I didn't have the trends that I'm getting fed, if I didn't have a tire company telling me, hey, this is cool right now, would I be doing the same thing that I'm doing right now? Or would I be creating something completely different out of like my inner world, like what I find exciting, without caring about all of that shit? Would it be the same? And I think that's the question that we need to ask ourselves a lot.
This guide started 100 years ago, and it was like a guide. Now it has become this idea, and also it exists because they invest resources into it. You know, you have to pay the inspectors. These are full-time jobs. You have to do all the fact checking and everything, and that's an infrastructure. Yes. It's like a company, right? Like the whole marketing strategy is like a whole company, and that's the reason no one has been able to push it back. You know, because you have, like I said, like 50 bests, or 50 best at the end of the day is 50 restaurants in the whole world or in the whole region, right? Like Michelin, if they go to a country, they will measure the whole country or the whole city, which also, this is important to say, that there are cities that, for example, it was disclosed that Florida tourism boards paid $3 million just to be reviewed. You know, like it's not something that, yes, we discovered this undiscovered food scene in Florida and we went there to, no, that's not how it works. It's not the Film Academy that has like a purpose of good cinema. At the end of the day, this is a PR company for themselves. Same as San Pellegrino, and these are all these are all PR companies. Another thing, and this is something that really pisses me off when I see these chefs that they can't even hide it, that they're genuinely motivated by their egos, like a little children where you say, here, you have a star. And they go to the other children and say, look, I have a star. And then another one comes and I have two. And you know, like, and that's the chef world that go around like that, just showing off like their little prizes that they got. And I think this system should turn obsolete at some point. I think, you know, like today there are the tools. When I was a kid, internet was not what it is today, and you could imagine this futuristic digital communities where things could be built and societies could be changed. And I think today there are all the resources to, you know, like to create a new way of measuring restaurants in transparent ways where you know what was being pointed, who pointed it, when. Are the people working there being treated with dignity? Like just dignity, you know, like also the thing, you get a green star and then you're paying like your dishwasher 3 hours an hour, you know, like and you're not even in black, you know, like you're not even paying like with proper taxes. That those things are going on all over, you know, like the whole time, and yeah. I think those are my opinions about it.
That's it for this week's episode of Potluck Food Talks. If you like what we're doing, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok as Potluck Food Talks. The show airs every Monday.